You're watching ABC7 News at 7.
For me, it's very emotional because I feel today like our government, our country has failed us and failed our kids and didn't keep us safe.
After yet another school shooting, politicians are feeling the heat from the public to take action. But what, if anything, are they willing to do? Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohen, and welcome to ABC7 at 7. We'll have more on the week in Washington in a moment, but first, our top 7 stories at 7. Today, the community of Parkland comes together, laying to rest the first 2 victims of Wednesday's school shooting, both teenagers. The 19-year-old suspected of killing them and 15 others at a high school in South Florida is in jail without bail. ABC's Maggie Rulli has more from Parkland.
What if that was your child that was shot 3 times in the heart, in the head, in the hand? Think about it.
As the first funerals begin today for the 17 victims of Wednesday's mass shooting in Parkland, Florida.
My home away from home was attacked brutally and tragically.
Now the FBI is admitting it made a huge mistake in how it handled a second tip it received last month about the suspected gunman. In a statement, the FBI says a person close to Nikolas Cruz contacted the FBI's tip line with specific concerns about his gun ownership, erratic behavior, and his desire to kill people.
The FBI has determined that protocol was not followed. The information was not provided to the Miami field office, and no further investigation was conducted at that time.
The FBI had already been alerted in September by a video blogger concerned that a user named Nikolas Cruz had left a threatening comment. Attorney General Jeff Sessions today ordered an immediate review and said we must do better. And Florida Senator Marco Rubio said in a statement it was inexcusable that the FBI failed to follow protocols. The community here now turning their pain into action.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence. It happened in Parkland.
Both Florida senators are here in Parkland today, and Democratic Senator Bill Nelson had a message for the president. He said, listen to the students, listen to the kids. They are speaking out wholly like they never have before. President Trump's expected to visit Parkland this weekend. Maggie Rulli, ABC News, Parkland, Florida.
So here's the question. How do you explain these school shootings to your kids while managing your own concerns about your child's safety at school? Family therapists say it's important for parents to talk openly with their kids about what's going on. Listen carefully to what your children are saying and answer any questions. If your child is afraid to go to school, talk to administrators and reiterate to your child what the school is doing to keep them safe.
Help them understand what they're seeing is just one isolated event, and maybe give them other information about how so much time has gone by where nothing has happened, and so they have appropriate perspective and not just really thinking the world is just, falling apart.
Therapists say teenagers are likely getting a lot of their information from social media, so be sure to help them sort out what is fact and what is fiction. Earlier today, Manatee High School received information about a threat made against the school. The school district says school officials found a threatening note. It was given to law enforcement, which immediately began an investigation, and robocalls were sent to all Manatee High parents to let them know what happened. The school has increased police presence around the campus. School officials say detectives have not identified who sent the note. Despite a judge ruling against Petland's claim for Sarasota County's puppy mill ordinance is unconstitutional, the battle continues on retail sales from pets, and it's far from over. Earlier this week, a judge ruled Petland doesn't have a constitutionally protected interest in selling live cats and dogs, upholding Sarasota County's ordinance banning retailers from selling animals. But Attorney Morgan Bentley, who represents Sarasota in Defense of Animals, the group which claimed to push for the ordinance, says the judge did strike down the law's exception for hobby breeders.
It's at least 8 months. I would think you're looking more like a year to maybe 18 months before there's finally a ruling.
I'm confident that the ordinance will be upheld because it's legal, and they could tie it up in the courts only for so long before it has to come to an end.
Petland's owner Brad Parker did not respond to requests for comment. A 52-year-old Venice woman is being charged with animal cruelty after deputies found 3 crated dogs living among piles of trash and feces. Sheriff's deputies responded to a home on Sandalwood Drive for a welfare check after someone reported the front door was left open. Deputies say they heard whining noises coming from inside. The noises were coming from 3 buried pet carriers where the animals sat among urine and feces without access to food or water. A veterinarian says 2 of the 3 dogs were severely neglected with matted fur.
All 3 dogs have been adopted. One was adopted out of the facility here, and the other 2 were transferred out to one of our rescue partners, and both have been adopted at this point.
Cornelia Cook is charged with felony aggravated animal cruelty and other charges. The state Senate is proposing $76 million for state tourism marketing next fiscal year. Estimates for state revenue collections were increased last week by about $462 million.
It will be increasing the line item for Visit Florida to $76 million to fund that, and that really reflects the Senate's continual support of not only Visit Florida but of funding for that agency.
At $76 million, funding for the public-private Visit Florida would remain the same as during the current fiscal year. Governor Scott has sought an increase to $100 million. Legislation in Tallahassee would make it easier for many people with criminal backgrounds to get professional licenses. The House Appropriations Committee is approving a bill changing the way a job applicant's criminal history is taken into consideration by employers. Under the proposal, cosmologists, certified nursing assistants, barbers, and some construction contractors would be allowed to reapply for licenses while still in prison.
It helps individuals who are coming out of correction system to obtain occupational licenses that helps facilitate their job outlook, helps, I'm going to say, I always have a problem with this word recidivism at 9 o'clock in the morning, helps reduce recidivism, keeps them off welfare, and allows them to become productive members, which is, I know, that we all want.
The legislation must pass one more committee in the House. Tonight is the night for Bikes on Main block party in downtown Sarasota. Not only is it a fun event, it also raises money for Suncoast Charities for Children. The nonprofit raises money for thousands of people with special needs and their families in our area. And ABC7's chief meteorologist Bob Harrigan is there. He joins us with the first alert forecast. Bob.
We are here right now on Main Street in downtown Sarasota, getting ready for the big Bikes on Main, part of the Thunder by the Bay. Twinkle is the lead actor. Hey, Twinkle, how are you? Good seeing you again.
Television.
So a great event tonight, and you guys are leading off here on the stage here. It's going to be a great night, isn't it?
Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, and it couldn't be more magnificent weather right now.
Weather-wise, it's perfect. You know.
Come down.
That's right. Come on down, help out. A great cause.
It is a great cause always, and we are so great. We've been involved with this organization for a long time, and it's just nice to be back, especially downtown.
So really Charities for Children, obviously, and you guys are not just here, but you're everywhere. You got a couple of gigs coming up the weekend too, right?
We work every weekend. If you want to know where we're at, twinkleandrocksoulradio.com shows you our schedule. We're around all the time.
And I follow you on Facebook, so I can kind of follow that as well.
Rocks. So if you like to rock.
And she is a rocker right here. Twinkle, good seeing you. Thanks for taking time to talk to us tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Bye.
it. Bye. We are looking at beautiful weather here right now. Generally fair skies, 72 degrees. The dew point is at 67. High pressure off the east coast of Florida looking good right now, and that's providing us with that easterly wind. But we are going to see a little bit more of a west to southwest wind beginning after midnight, which will allow some fog to move in. Temperatures currently near the coast in the low 70s. Winds are really nice. This is absolutely outstanding weather here tonight. Things are looking really quite nice, and the music will be going through 10, 11 o'clock tonight. We got Twinkle coming up first, and then we got the Billy Rice Band after that. Wind and fog forecast calling for some fog to roll in. Some of that fog could be rather heavy at times. So much more coming up a little bit later. Big night right here at Sarasota. Back to you, Alan.
Thanks, Bob. And still to come, why didn't the FBI act on tips about the alleged shooter at a Florida high school? Stay with us.
Tonight at 11 on ABC7, your Suncoast News.
Good evening, I'm Jacqueline Matter. After a judge's decision on a countywide puppy mill ordinance, what the ruling means for the future of a Sarasota pet store. Plus, why the FBI is now under fire As the details surrounding a deadly school shooting in South Florida continue in the push to allow people with criminal backgrounds to get professional licenses in the Sunshine State.
Tonight at 11 on ABC7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you.
My name is Stephen Campagna. We're Ben Gates and Dramus, and here is your law tip of the week. If you've been arrested in the state of Florida, the state attorney's office is already working on your prosecution. It's time to work on your defense. So give us a call. We've got your back.
Alex Karras Lincoln's 40th anniversary sale. Drive a brand new 2018 Lincoln MKC for $279 per month or the Lincoln MKZ for $299 per month. We have a great selection of certified pre-owned Lincolns. These vehicles have warranties up to 100,000 miles and come with complimentary roadside assistance. Alex Karras Lincoln, where our mission statement is consistent commitment. Every client, every time. Located 2 miles north of the Sarasota-Bradenton Airport on US 41.
Fact: the top 3 Marriott hotels in North and South America are on the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail, according to a recent survey of 363 Marriott hotels. The Marriott at Grand National, the Marriott Shoals Hotel, and the Grand Hotel. And 2 of the top 3 Renaissance hotels are also on the trail: Ross Bridge in Birmingham and the Battle House in Mobile. Southern hospitality still rules. For reservations or information, visit rtjgolf.com/resorts.
Thousands of award-winning Honda SUVs are on sale from $189 a month during the Honda President's Day sales event. You've got to see these SUVs. Get a surprisingly spacious 2018 HR-V, $189 a month, or step up to Pilot for $289 a month with available seating for 8. Plus, we have Motor Trend's SUV of the Year, the 2018 CR-V, and Ridgeline, a Car and Driver's 10 Best. All on sale for up to $3,805, less than the competition, at your local Honda dealer.
Check out My Suncoast Dining on mysuncoast.com, your guide to the foodie lifestyle. ABC7's own Chef Judy serves up her favorite recipes, cooking tips and trends, dining blogs, step-by-step videos, and Suncoast Restaurant Guide. You'll find it all at mysuncoast.com/dining.
The community of Parkland continues to somehow move forward and heal after Wednesday's high school massacre. Omar Jimenez reports on the painful task of saying goodbye as we're learning new shocking details about what the FBI knew about the shooter.
The FBI admitting that it failed to follow up on a tip about the Florida school shooter, saying a person close to the confessed shooter contacted the Bureau on January 5th to report concerns about him, including his gun ownership and desire to kill people. The FBI now saying it never followed up and did not provide the information to the Miami field office.
This is the nightmare where, you look back and identify that there was perhaps information in your holdings that could have saved lives. I mean, it is the nightmare scenario.
In a statement, the FBI director saying, "We have spoken with victims and families and deeply regret the additional pain this causes all those affected by this horrific tragedy. This new development coming as the families of some of the 17 victims killed in Wednesday's school massacre preparing to do the unimaginable, bury their children."
I just saw my daughter, cold as can be. She is gone.
14-year-old Alyssa Al-Hadef, the first victim laid to rest. We're also learning more about the others who lost their lives, including a football coach, an athletic director, and young students with bright futures ahead of them.
Jamie was such a special kid. All of the kids here are.
And as the community struggles to heal fresh wounds, there are small signs that life is returning to some sense of normalcy. While Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School is closed this week, some students and staff returned to campus Friday to pick up their vehicles left behind in the chaos.
When we come back, we'll discuss where we go from here as a nation, as parents, as human beings. We have some of the brightest political minds on the Suncoast waiting to join us at the Trapezoid, so stay with us.
Attention, Americans eligible for Medicare. Are you getting all the benefits you're entitled to?
Did you know there may be money available to lower your medical prescription costs? Call Health Markets and we'll tell you if you qualify.
Hi, I'm Dr. Martin Jeetsi. It's a new Medicare year. That means more changes and more confusion. The key question is, what can you do now to ensure you get the care you need in the coming year?
Call Health Markets today. You may qualify to save money on prescriptions. We'll help you find plans that may cost less, cover more, and could even lower your prescription costs to increase your savings. We help you find all the benefits you're entitled to, and we do it at no cost.
Make sure you have what you need to get the care that's right for you.
Find out if you qualify to receive extra help with your prescriptions. Call the number on the screen now. Representatives are standing by.
Rugs as Art. You know the name, you know the building, but do you know what's inside? Yes, Rugs as Art is Florida's #1 area rug superstore, but there is so much more. Amazing furniture, accessories, and art. All this and more. Come see for yourself. You'll love our personal touch and be pleasantly surprised by our affordable prices. Rugs as Art and more. There is so much more to explore.
For more than 100 years, American Humane Association has been teaching kids to be kind to animals. Those in our homes, on the farms, on the silver screen, and wildlife conservation, caring for the world's vanishing creatures. But we can't do it alone. Visit kindness100.org to find ways to teach kids how they can make a more caring, compassionate, and humane world for all of us.
In life after the military, it's our duty as veterans to have each other's back. I'm retired Colonel Greg Gatson, and it's my mission to help you get the benefits and services you've earned. If you need to file a VA claim, remember these important steps. Submit an online claim through ebenefits.va.gov. Work with an accredited Veteran Service Organization, or VSO. And if you need to attend a VA claim exam, please go. Visit this website to learn what to expect.
Welcome back. We began this week with an exciting local election that gained national attention, and we end this week with despair and finger-pointing about another school massacre, another example of our inability to do anything about it. 17 people are dead in Parkland. Students, teachers, coaches who jumped in front of students, shielding them from the hail of bullets. A disturbed young man, missed warning signs and tips, and yet another debate about assault weapons and frustration once again that nothing will be done. We thought we'd be talking about the House 72 special election, and we will in a bit, but joining us right now are Kevin Griffith, the Vice Chair of the Sarasota Democratic Party, Jack Brill, the Vice Chair of the Sarasota Republican Party, and Kate Bradshaw, the News and Politics Editor at Creative Loafing. It's really been an up and down week, really, that ended terribly. But let me ask you this, with the revelation today that the FBI missed a detailed tip that this was a disturbed young man who was threatening to kill people. And I'm wondering if it kind of obscures or skewers the debate over how to prevent these tragedies, Jack, whether we're dealing with a lapse in law enforcement, school security, or the issue of assault weapons.
Yeah, number one, obviously, I can't imagine being the parent of one of the children, of any child, that anything happens to your children. It's the worst thing to get ever from a parent could ever happen. So, obviously, you know, the prayers that go out to these families, obviously, very, very, very devastating. Then you look at, apparently he was on Facebook, you know, talking about becoming a school shooter. The FBI gets a tip. The police were at his home 36 times, you know, since 2010, and he potentially may have been Baker acted. How did he get a gun? That's the crazy part. And this is as bad as the Texas church shooting, where the Air Force didn't let the local authorities know about that person, of all the, you know, the arrests he had. I don't remember the exact charges, but they would have prevented him from ever having a gun.
Right, and Kevin, you know, there was an interesting quote that I saw today from New Yorker magazine, that we don't have more mentally disturbed people in the United States than in other countries. We just arm them. We don't preclude them from getting firearms.
Alan, I'm so sad the more I hear about, the more these happen. I was on your show, I don't know when it was, 2 months ago with Las Vegas after that, and I was at a loss for words then. I'm basically at a loss for words now. The change is not going to happen from our politicians, that is clear. It has to happen, believe it or not, from students or parents or clergy. I don't know where it's coming from, but it has to come from somewhere because, you know, I have 2 little children at home, and I'm at a loss for words, frankly.
I'm actually going to have something to say about that in a moment. But Kate, let me ask you this. Are we just basically in the same old debate that we always have after every one of these massacres and tragedies, that some people say it's a gun issue, some people say it's a school security issue, some people are saying arm the teachers and the resource officers, or people are saying this is just a breakdown in law enforcement?
Well, yes and no. On one hand, I mean, it's sort of gallows humor, but you see people kind of on social media recycling the meme from the last 4 or 5 mass shootings. And The Onion always posts the same story, you know. How can we prevent this from happening, says only nation where this happens. But at the same time, I did hear Rick Scott say, finally, we need to prevent people with mental illnesses, certain mental illnesses, from getting guns. So, I mean, it's not seismic, but just from my own perspective, I thought I detected some movement.
Jack, do you see that going anywhere? Because I had Ron Chapman from the NRA on before saying there is a civil liberties issue here, that you cannot exclude people who may have mental illness issues but have not been adjudicated or convicted of a felony from their constitutional right of bearing arms.
The mental health issue in our state and every other state is much larger than is given credit to how big the issue is. I'll give you something a little interesting. I toured the Florida State Hospital up in Mariana about a month ago, which is where a lot of criminals are mental, you know, Baker Act folks. In the 1960s, that hospital held 6,000 people in a state population of Florida of 2 million. Now it has 3,000 people in a population of 21 million. So where are these folks that have these mental issues, challenges? Where are they? In the county jails? Are they out on the streets? The other thing, and I'll tie into, and that's where the issue is, and I know there was a $40 million fund just put in by one of the legislators to try to increase for mental illness here in Florida. The other side you have to look at, 73%, and this is where I'll tie into what Kevin said, I apologize, for an issue, 73% of foster children commit crimes. You gotta nip it from the lack of parenting, the lack of, you know, proper supervision going on.
This young man's adopted parents died, and we have done entire shows about the lack of resources for foster children in this country. They are, I believe, 60% of foster children, when they age out, will wind up in prison in Florida. I mean, that's...
And I was saying 73%. Right. That was the stats I was
Alan,
given.
That's on us.
The issue isn't foster children here. We're talking about politicians. Rick Scott's been in office for 8 years, and he's overseen Pulse, Fort Lauderdale, and now Parkland. And in 20 years from now, people are going to look back, and at least one footnote or one note from his governorship is going to be that he oversaw these 3 mass shootings, and did nothing about it. Nothing. Didn't even try. That's absurd.
Kate, I mean, does that issue resonate with voters in our area? I mean, we so often hear that people vote their pocketbooks, and when it gets down to it, they don't vote on issues like this.
I mean, when it comes to their children and grandchildren and neighbors' children getting gunned down in schools, and there are absolutely things that can be done about it. I do think that this is kind of a, you know, it does affect the way people think about who they're sending to office.
All right, on that note, we want to share with you what some of you had to say about last night's show on protecting kids at schools. Mass shootings are happening far too often, taking place at concerts, churches, and at schools. The latest, 17 dead at a high school in South Florida. So we went to Facebook to hear your thoughts on how to prevent these from happening. Vicky says, ban all assault rifles, stricter mental health regulations for starters. Make the law so strict that if you are caught selling, buying, or owning one, it's a mandatory 10 years. Tony says, answer me this, please. Do you think criminals care about any ban you propose? And then Tony adds, change. Start with parenting your kids. Discipline is lacking, and the entitlement mentality are major factors. As long as liberals control the schools, no laws will stop this. Cassie responds, this kid's parents both died recently. He had issues. Stricter gun laws would have helped. You know, I've been going through these comments and others like them, and I can't tell you the last time I saw someone say, I'm changing my mind. Whatever we're doing isn't working. Hoping to find consensus in our community, in our country on this issue right now is a fallacy. But it turns out, folks, we have an election in a few months, and we have two members of Congress on the Suncoast, Vern Buchanan and Tom Rooney. If you really care about this issue, find out what their positions are on banning assault weapons, large capacity magazines, universal background checks. If you agree with them, there you go. If you don't, seek out other candidates who represent your views and vote for them if this issue is really that important to you. Congress determines what kind of weapons are legal and what weapons are not, and you have the power to determine who makes those decisions. Yes, ma'am, I'm talking about you, and you too, sir. We'll be right back.
Coast Guard, we are taking on water.
The United States Coast Guard. They secure our ports and waterways, protect our environment, keep drugs away from our kids, and save lives. It's dangerous work. And in times of triumph or tragedy, the Coast Guard Foundation answers the call to support Coast Guard members and their families. Learn more at coastguardfoundation.org.
This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
Yeah, I have questions.
Prescription drugs aren't as bad as street drugs, right?
Weed's legal, isn't it?
Drinking is worse than smoking weed.
Isn't it? Why
is heroin so addictive?
Molly just makes you feel happy.
I have questions.
Mom?
Dad, did you ever try drugs?
They're going to ask. Be ready. Go to drugfree.org. A message from Partnership for Drug-Free Kids.
I just need a second.
Is your weight holding you back and affecting your health?
Did you see this? Your cousin had a heart attack.
Really?
Excess weight or obesity can be serious, but you can do something about it. Visit yourweightmatters.org. Download the free toolkit to prepare you to speak with a healthcare provider. Your weight does matter. Accept the challenge and take charge today. Visit yourweightmatters.org.
We've all heard how military veterans adjusting to the civilian world may have certain issues.
30. 70.
If only everyone had this issue. No matter what challenge they face, Easter Seals is here for America's veterans. Now, your ABC7 First Alert Weather Forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan.
Well, good evening. We are here in Sarasota Main Street, where it's blocked off for a big block party right here, all a part of Thunder by the Bay 2018. And tonight they've got the lights on the bikes, a lot of people here, and the great stage behind me with Twinkle getting ready to perform here all night long, along with the Billy Rice Band. So it should be a lot of fun. A lot of people here, and it'll be going on all weekend. You couldn't ask for better weather. Let's go to the maps straight right now. Casey Key webcam showing you a beautiful day out on the beaches today. up and down the coast. Now, tomorrow morning, we could have some sea fog kind of rolling in. There could be an issue up to about 10 o'clock. It should burn off after that, at least go back out into the Gulf. So that'll be the biggest issue weather-wise, and that shouldn't be too much. A warm weekend ahead. No big changes in store either over the upcoming, it looks like now, about 7 days. There could be some changes late next week, but not this week. And this warm temperature regime will stay around, looks like right on in through all of the weekend and beyond. Currently it's 72. The dew point is at 67. Winds are out of the west-northwest at 5, and the pressure 30-19. The high today was 77 degrees. That's above average. 73 is our average, 86 the record. And as far as the current fog goes, there's a little haze off in the Gulf. That's going to try to roll on later on tonight as winds veer more to the west-southwest in advance of a weak cold front. That weak cold front will dissipate before it reaches our area. It will not change things up as far as temperatures go at all as we move through time. Again, here is a look at temperatures. Currently it's 77 in Jacksonville, 77 in Miami. Same in Key West and in Lake Placid. It's 71 in Sarasota. The Gulf water temperature is warm at 74. And the Cortez area is 69 degrees. The big Cortez Seafood Fest going on this weekend. This particular forecast model depicting some fog around beginning tomorrow morning and then continuing up to about 10, and then it comes back again tomorrow night. And it looks like we will see the potential for some increase in clouds on Tuesday as that front slowly sags southward, but it won't have an impact on our weather over the weekend. Here's a look now at the national satellite and radar imagery showing some clouds and showers well to our north. The forecast tomorrow, not calling for rainfall here. That rain is out of the picture. The rain chance is less than 20%. As far as that European model goes, you can see that snowfall expected over Iowa into Wisconsin, Chicago, Toledo, Cleveland, all the way over to Buffalo. As that snowstorm takes off to the northeast, it will be a problem for the northeast United States. As far as we're concerned, the weather here for boaters looks to be pretty good. We'll have some morning fog. East winds turn to the west at 5 to 10 knots. Mainly smooth conditions out there on the bays and inland waters. Again, the UV index at a 7, water temperature 74. Tonight, we'll see mostly fair conditions, low temperature right around 64. And then as far as tomorrow's forecast goes, a high of 80, perfect weather. And that'll be at Roberts Arena tomorrow for all the bikers out there and the vendors. And as far as the 7-day forecast goes, you can see temperatures staying into the low 80s right on in through the weekend, and then even warmer still on Tuesday. A slight chance for a shower on Tuesday, not much at all. But tonight, I'm saying you cannot ask for better weather. We'll be right back after this.
This is an important medical announcement. Bard IVC filters have been linked to punctured veins and problems with migration. Anyone who's received a Bard IVC filter must receive medical monitoring and may be entitled to substantial compensation. If you have the Bard Recovery G2 or G2 Express filter, you are in a class of patients who should be compensated for some expenses. Call now for a free assessment of your case and potential money damages. This call is confidential. There's no cost and you may be eligible. Juries have awarded millions of dollars to people who should have been warned about the risks of the Bard IVC filters. Call the IVC Filter Hotline if you or a loved one has received an IVC filter and experienced a vein puncture or required medical monitoring. You must call now.
Call 800-329-3089. 800-329-3089.
If you're looking for the perfect trip that allows you to spend quality time with a family, then discover the great outdoors on an Alabama Black Belt adventure. Create unforgettable memories while hunting, fishing, or biking and hiking. Or play the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail, now celebrating 25 years. And while you're here, enjoy the flavors of the Black Belt. Book your adventure at our lodges or stay in the Renaissance Montgomery Hotel and Spa. Start planning an Alabama Black Belt adventure today.
Mark Zupan, part of the U.S. Paralympic rugby team. In my game, movement is everything. I get frustrated when my move is blocked, especially when that guy has no right to be there, even just for a minute. I love a challenge, but I don't like to play this game every day.
A message from the United Spinal Association.
Every child follows a path in life. For many, that path will lead them to a door that gives them a place to grow, to learn, to belong, a place to forge their future. Because while many doors open, these doors transform. They did for us. Support your local Boys and Girls Clubs. Great futures start here.
Welcome back. We keep hearing President Trump still doesn't believe the Russians interfered in the presidential election. Well, he might want to talk to members of the federal grand jury who just indicted 13 Russians for doing just that. What about the big question? Was there any collusion between the Russians and the Trump campaign? According to the indictment, some of the Russians communicated with unwitting individuals associated with the Trump campaign, but the indictment doesn't include allegations the Trump campaign knowingly colluded with the Russians. And joining us right now for more are Kevin Griffith, the vice chair of the Sarasota Democratic Party, Jack Brill, the vice chair of the Sarasota Republican Party, and Kate Bradshaw, the news and politics editor for Creative Loafing. So what are we to make of this? On one hand, the indictment talks about these communications between the Russians and unwitting members of the Trump campaign, but the Assistant Attorney General Rod Rosenstein made it clear that they are not alleging anyone in the Trump campaign with knowingly colluding with the Russians at this point. Kevin, you are the attorney.
Well, I think from, let me take a political statement here. I think President Trump should start to believe his law enforcement administration, whether it's the FBI or the Department of Justice.
Well, the FBI hasn't had exactly a good week here.
Well, but they said from the start that Russians interfered in the election, and Trump's basically been denying that the whole time, and now we have proof that they did. The collusion argument, I think the president, it's a pretty low bar for the president and his administration to collude with a foreign country to get elected, so hopefully that didn't happen. But I think, Mueller's still, the investigation's still open.
Jack, as Kevin said, the investigation continues on, and the question I often hear is if there was no collusion, why have they been working so hard to fire the FBI director, discount Mueller in the investigation? I mean, if you have nothing to hide, why don't you just let it ride out?
Well, I think it's just that the allegations have been so strong and so forceful that you're in a defensive position. And I want to go back to the two words that we've been using, unwittingly and knowingly. And in your statement, if the Russians, obviously, the Russians, was 13 individuals from 3 Russian organizations, man, we should prosecute them, even if it's an absentia, prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. So obviously, as we probably all suspected, we know they've been doing it, especially on the social media side, and now, it looks like they were duping, who knows what the campaign officials may, were involved. But the fact that Mueller's statement says there is not any known collusion, and it was unwittingly and unknowingly that they were doing, that the Trump campaign did not know this was going on, again, shows there wasn't any collusion, and it shows their innocence.
It is not a final word on the matter, and obviously they are getting cooperative witnesses. Rick Gates, the deputy campaign chairman, and General Flynn. So there's a lot more to learn here. And Kate, I always wonder what is the impact that this is going to have on the midterm elections. You often hear Republicans don't even care about this as an issue. Democrats do. But when you hear about this day in, day out, week after week, is it going to impact, you think, in terms of Democratic enthusiasm and Republican unenthusiasm about the coming midterms?
Well, I mean, I think it might sort of help stoke the flames of Democratic enthusiasm. I mean, with every story that comes out, to Democrats, each one is a bombshell, and they're going to interpret it, in a way that, that they see fit. But on the Republican side, it's either, it's a quote-unquote nothing burger, or it's fake news. So, I mean, I'm just of the belief that everybody's pretty locked in.
And we're going to talk about House 72 in a little bit, but my understanding of the polling that both the Republicans and Democrats were doing during the campaign showed that the president was underwater actually in House 72. And I'm wondering if these kinds of stories and everything else is going to keep Republican enthusiasm not where it should be at this point in the cycle, and whether you're concerned about that as you go into some very important elections, Jack.
Well, obviously, this week's election was a very good eye-opener in watching where the actual numbers, you know, who voted in what category and how many Republicans voted for Margaret and how many MPAs, where did they go. And so there's some really interesting statistical information and numerical information that came out of it. But I also, you know, you look at, I go back to a statement I've said many, many times. All politics is local. You always have the influence from DC, but you need to look at the candidates themselves and what they bring to the election.
I want to go back to that point in a second, but before we do, Kevin, when you look at the Russia investigation, is this something that Democrats do at this point think is more important than just about anything else in terms of where this is going and casting a pall over this administration for the next 9 months?
I think it just feeds into this, what Jeb Bush said way back in during the debate, that Donald Trump was the chaos candidate, and he continues to be a president where chaos reigns. I mean, you had Reince Priebus today, or this week on TV talking about the chaos that was going on in the White House and multiply it by 50 in reality. And I think that's going to continue to go on because that's his personality. That's Trump's personality.
We have to take a quick break, and we'll be back with the special election in House 72 in a moment. Stay with us.
That is a pretty good breakfast. You're not even eating.
Not hungry.
No? Why not? What's up?
Kath and I knew that Jenny had been partying a bit. Found out she tried heroin.
Most people don't know what to say about drugs, but we do. Visit us at drugfree.org.
Stay connected to your clients and new customers using ABC7 Digital Media Services. Our team of professionals provide a wide array of digital services to help you get the most out of your website. We specialize in building and helping you maintain the most effective digital solutions for your business. It's vital that your online presence stands out, so our experts will equip you with the best resources available. Trust ABC7 Digital Media Services to give you the right tools to grow your business.
All hands on deck. What's up? I want to point out 3 tips for using the home computer more safely. Point away.
First, stop. Make sure your software is up to date and that you've password protected your computer's login and Wi-Fi connection.
Next, think before visiting a site, opening attachments, or clicking on links.
Then connect, knowing you're helping make the web safer for you
and for everyone. Make Stop, Think, Connect part of your daily online routine.
When it comes to drinking, what do you think moderation is? The U.S. Dietary Guidelines define moderation as up to 1 drink a day for women and up to 2 drinks a day for men. So what's a drink? The guidelines say a drink equals 12 ounces of beer, 5 ounces of wine, or a cocktail with 1.5 ounces of distilled spirits. Each contains the same amount of alcohol. Like to learn more? Visit drinkinmoderation.org.
Check out My Suncoast Dining on mysuncoast.com, your guide to the foodie lifestyle. ABC7's own Chef Judy serves up her favorite recipes, cooking tips and trends, dining blogs, step-by-step videos, and Suncoast Restaurant Guide. You'll find it all at mysuncoast.com/dining.
Welcome back. Our guests join us right now to discuss the results of the House 72 special election. And Jack, I want to go back to a point that you were making, that all politics is local, the famous expression by Tip O'Neill. You could all correct me if I'm wrong here, but you know, I covered this race pretty closely, and I'm unaware of any particular local issue that this race fell on. It seemed to me it was almost a reflection of the national mood. Kate?
Well, I definitely admit that I didn't watch it nearly as closely as you did, but I definitely, the impression I got was that, you know, just like the St. Petersburg mayor's race, I live in St. Pete, it was largely nationalized, and you know, there were a lot of Trump comparisons. of
Right,
course.
and look, nobody is going to compare James Buchanan to Donald Trump.
Right.
But what we kept on hearing about is, that women were motivated, that the Republicans weren't exactly enthusiastic. I don't know what issue you could see that James and Margaret debate upon that the voters turn one way or the other, Jack.
No, and I even think with the debate you had here, the thought process afterwards, everyone got their message out, they did a good job, but did it sway any voters? Probably not, from that standpoint. We had a very good candidate in James Buchanan. Obviously, Kevin's team had a very good candidate in Margaret Good. The ladies' vote came out very strong on Election Day, and from the Republican side and on the NPA side.
You were surprised by that because I remember when you first got here the other night, you were like, we have this one because Republican voting late in the day was so large. What we did not take into consideration is a lot of those Republican women weren't voting for James Buchanan. And
I'll be the first to admit, because we were up like 2,600 votes for the day, and that's usually a good buffer to pull over the early voting and the absentee voting. And at the end of the day, netted out, James only won the day by 100 votes.
Kevin, let me ask you this, because Politico Florida did a very interesting story today that pointed out that in this special election, 3,200 fewer Democrats came out to vote in this special election than in the midterms. 9,600 fewer Republicans came out to vote, citing it was a depressed Republican turnout. And the warning to Democrats is, don't count on that in November during the midterms, that the Republicans are likely to come out in force, so don't get too comfortable in that seat.
I think what the community is going to learn is what we already knew as a party, is that Margaret Good is going to work really, really hard, tirelessly, frankly, for every person in Sarasota County. And she knows that, and she knows that she needs to go earn the vote of Republicans, Democrats, and independents. I will say, going back to what we talked about issue-wise, one big issue was education, because Margaret came out very strong for public education, and James Buchanan, the Republicans, came out very strong against public education, and that's a big deal.
It was not about against public. There's nobody who's against public education.
There are two issues I want to get to quickly. And Kate, number one is, what kind of earthquake was this in the political world in these parts?
Well, I mean, a lot of people from other parts of the state were watching this pretty closely. Other parts of the country, I mean, it was a very important bellwether election, just like Congressional District 13 was in 2014 going into those midterms. I mean, everybody just wants to read the tea leaves.
All right, so there's a lot of talk about who is going to run as a Republican for this seat in just 9 months from now. I hear there may be a Brill in the works.
I hear a lot of names out there.
Yeah,
so,
but you know.
But remember, everyone, James is still making a decision whether James is going to run. If James decides to run, he'll be the nominee.
Right, and Joe Gruters is quoted as saying that if he wants to run, he is the presumptive nominee.
Absolutely.
But we are also hearing, in addition to Vicki Brill, Ray Pilon, the former state representative who used to hold that seat, and Bridget Ziegler, the chairwoman of the Education Board. So, I mean...
And we've heard other names, too. County Commissioner Paul Carajula. There are a couple other folks that have talked about it, so it's going to be an interesting few weeks.
So assuming that James Buchanan doesn't run, what does the Republican Party look for, and what how do you shake it out, Kevin?
Well, let's just take a step back here. The Democrats just won maybe what was the biggest election in Southwest Florida in the last decade. And so we're going to enjoy it a little bit. But I'd also tell the people at home, if you voted or if you didn't vote, Margaret Good is going to work really, really hard. Just so everyone knows, she was elected on Tuesday night. She was sworn in at 1:30 on Wednesday. That means in the morning she had to get in a car, drive 5 hours to Tallahassee, get sworn in, and then was on an education committee asking questions on Thursday.
10 seconds, what do Republicans have to do?
We will have a very good candidate, well-versed, knowledgeable. November is going to be a lot different than the special election. There will not be all the outside money. It'll be based on the facts. And, you know, Margaret did a good job, but she's only going to be there for 3 weeks. Session's done March 9th.
We have to leave it there. We have to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a moment.
Sorry.
This is an important announcement. If you're between 50 and 85 and worried about your loved ones, you can still get affordable life insurance for peace of mind.
My life insurance coverage is guaranteed, and I was not required to get a medical exam.
I had high blood pressure and diabetes, and I got my coverage with one telephone call. No exam necessary.
I'm a smoker, and I wanted to take care of my family. I called to get my life insurance and my affairs in order. I wanted to do the right thing.
Call Final Expense No Exam Insurance. Your rates are guaranteed and will never increase.
I called and learned that this insurance cannot be canceled even if you get sick or gain weight.
And there are no restrictions on how my beneficiaries use the money when I'm gone.
Approval was easy and the price was right. I wanted to do this for my children.
Call 800-738-9812. 800-738-9812.
Who else has been taking your prescriptions? Keep your medicine and your family safe and secure. Mind your meds. To learn how we can help, visit the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids at drugfree.org.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes? B, console her?
Don't worry, sweetie. This is gonna happen a lot.
Or C, find her a new boyfriend?
Nice single boys. That was weird.
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. We want to thank all our guests for being here tonight. Kevin Griffith is the Vice Chair of the Sarasota Democratic Party. Jack Brill is the Vice Chair of the Sarasota Republican Party. And Kate Bradshaw is the News and Politics Editor for Creative Loafing. When we return, we'll have a final look at your first alert weather, plus more details on Russian collusion with the 2016 presidential election. Stay with us.
I heard about the Dotoli Cancer Center through friends of mine who had been treated here and were very pleased with the treatment.
If there is prostate cancer, we at the Dotoli Cancer Center will find it using 3D color flow Doppler ultrasound.
And that helped precisely identify where my cancer was. I can tell you that you will not find a finer, more professional team of clinicians anywhere in the world.
My name is Luke Perry, and I am 1 million strong. I'm in the fight against colorectal cancer because I believe we can win it. Colon and rectal cancers are the second leading cause of cancer deaths among men and women in the U.S. Colon cancer is preventable. Know the risk factors and make sure to get screened. There are simple take-home options available. Take control of your health. Screening for colon cancer isn't embarrassing. It can be life-saving. To find out more about your options, visit fightcrc.org.
It's been about a month, and I can honestly say I've seen the change in me. I went from being a depressed girl who didn't want help to this happy, caring girl who loves helping other people. I just really hope that people that went through what I went through get the help that they need, because their story is important and they are loved. Thank you so much for everything.
There was this big bruise on my friend's face. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to think her own nephew could have hit her.
I didn't want to see it. My mother's bank account was emptied, and a caregiver had taken control of it.
I didn't want to see it. My father's refrigerator, there was hardly anything in it. That's unusual for him.
It's tough to see that a senior citizen is being abused, physically, emotionally, sexually, or financially. Elder abuse is a crime.
So see the signs. Stop the crimes.
Thank you.
You got a king?
Go fish! In your face, in your face,
It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Checking primetime headlines, new indictments in the Russia probe today. The Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein announcing 13 Russian nationals and 3 companies in Russia are accused of interfering in the 2016 presidential election. ABC's Serena Marshall joins us with more from the White House.
Good afternoon. The 37-page indictment shows an elaborate scheme to undermine the integrity of the U.S. election and the American political process in what they called information warfare against the United States. The Justice Department says it was a sophisticated plan to undermine the U.S. election. 13 Russian nationals and 3 Russian companies charged with conspiracy to defraud the United States by creating false companies, false personas, and often using stolen U.S. identities to infiltrate and sow discord in the U.S. political system. The indictment reads they staged political rallies inside the United States while posing as U.S. grassroots entities, hiding their Russian ties, and even solicited and paid U.S. citizens to promote or disparage candidates.
There is no allegation in this indictment that any American was a knowing participant in this illegal activity. There is no allegation in the indictment that the charged conduct altered the outcome of the 2016 election.
The indictment does back up the intelligence community's assessment of Russian interference aimed at helping the Trump campaign while disparaging his opponents, including Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and of course, Hillary Clinton. But that's been a position the president hasn't embraced.
As far as hacking, I think it was Russia, but I think we also get hacked by other countries and other people.
The White House said the president was briefed on the indictment this morning, and President Trump took to Twitter to say this is proof there was never any collusion between his campaign and the Russians. However, this was a single indictment, and the special counsel investigation into possible collusion is far from over. Serena Marshall, ABC News, the White House.
President Trump has been under fire for having an alleged affair with a porn star, Stormy Daniels, for the past few weeks. Now, The New Yorker has published the account of a former Playboy playmate who may have had an affair with Donald Trump before he was president. Just days before the election, Karen McDougal sold her account of the alleged affair for $150,000 to AMI, the media company owning the National Enquirer. The New Yorker states the relationship between the president and the former playmate started in 2006, 2 years after Trump married Melania. The White House says this is fake news. And this is all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us, and have a good night.